joining me for Relax, It's Just Cat Grooming. I'm Lynn, your host and instructor with the National Cat Groomers Institute. This is the show where we answer your burning questions about grooming cats and running a successful business doing it. In today's episode, I'll be discussing 3 questions that we get asked all the time. What do I do about a negative review? How can I reduce stress during a grooming appointment? And what do I do if the cat hates the blow dryer? If you enjoyed today's quick chat, then make sure to click the notifications button on the National Cat Groomers page so that you can get notified when we post new videos and content just like this. So let's get started. It's happened. You've gotten a 1-star review that is jacking up your awesome 5-star rating. What do? Can you get Facebook or Yelp or Google to take it down? Who do I call? What do I do about negative reviews? Well, first is that I want you to breathe. Just breathe. It is going to be okay. 1 negative review in an overall positive online appearance is not the end of the world. And I hate to break it to you, but Facebook, Google, and Yelp do not really care if it's a fake review or if it's an upset review because they're not going to take it down. So we have to figure out what is it that we're going to do about it. There are a few things that I want you to keep in mind when responding to a negative review. 1, the response that you write is more important than the negative review. So aim to almost talk to the dozens, if not hundreds, of potential clients who will be reading this. If your rough draft of a response looks more like, oh yeah, I showed them, then you need to reevaluate your goals of responding to this review because that is not the purpose. 2, a negative customer review is an opportunity to improve that client's experience with your business. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. Would you rather someone alert you to a problem in your communication, in your process, in your follow-up with your staff, etc., or for them to just never return to your business without saying anything? Because that's typically what people do. A review of any kind is a great way to get and digest feedback about your business. It would be awesome if every piece of client feedback is a rave review of your wonderful services, but unfortunately the nature of the beast is that people will overwhelmingly talk more about a negative experience than they had about a positive one. And the thing that they talk about the least, a neutral experience. Oh, it was just okay. I don't know about you, but I'd like my customers to feel more than just, oh yeah, it was okay when they work with me. So use this negative review to step back and try to figure out where any potential gaps in your customer experience was. Look at your business objectively to see if there are any tweaks or changes that you could make to make sure a future client doesn't encounter the same things. 3, all right. The actual review. First, I want to reiterate what I said before is that your response should not be like, oh yeah, I showed them. Like I'm trying to one-up them. No. That is not productive in business, and it certainly isn't going to look favorably to this client, to any potential client that reads it, or to any potential client that the unhappy client tells about it. No, we need to do some damage control. You need to acknowledge what the client is feeling, offer an apology that they had a negative experience in your business, and what you're going to do to resolve the situation. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to go in depth in your review response with what exactly you're going to do with this client. So for example, if you're going to give them a refund, if you're going to offer to have them come back so you can fix it, so only you, the owner, are going to do it. Whatever it is, you don't have to go in depth in the actual response. It could really just be, that you're acknowledging how they're feeling, you are addressing the fact that they had a negative experience in your business and that is not how you want your customers to feel, and then give them a direct way to reach out to you, or to the business owner or to the manager. But you want to improve this client's experience. That's the goal, okay? So remember, you think about, we do want to acknowledge, we want to focus on what other people are going to be reading as far as this, but you also want to improve the experience for that client. Okay, so we have to go hand in hand. Number 4, don't make it too wordy. A long drawn out he said, she said review response does not look professional. It looks like a lecture. You have to show concern for the pet but also a willingness to provide a resolution for the client. Okay. 5, finally, don't go scorched earth. I've seen some reviews that just blow it up and make a mountain out of a molehill. You want to keep it calm, professional, and solution-oriented. And one last thing I'll add is to make sure that you review your policies and procedures to see if there are ways that you can improve client communications and give clients an opportunity to provide you with feedback before they go right for the negative review. A lot of times, if you look at negative reviews in other businesses, doesn't have to be your own, doesn't have to be your own industry, the majority of time it's usually a miscommunication, or that the client had unreasonable expectations, or that they just had no expectations. And so that's really where communication comes into play. I would also encourage you to look at negative reviews from other businesses. It can be your competitors. It can be businesses in other areas that are similar to your own. And keep in mind what people are reviewing negatively about these businesses that have a similar clientele to what you want, and make sure that your business takes care of those kind of problems. So it's almost like you want to see those problems, turn it around into a positive that you can promote on your business page, or that you can talk about on your website. You know, if someone is saying that they, if a similar business to yours is saying that they didn't like the fact that their pet was there for 5 hours and that they didn't get a call, that they had to like hunt them down, well, then make sure that you cover on your page exactly how you set up expectations for each appointment, that you follow up, that, they should expect your call at this time, that, if they have any questions, they can call you. Or on the flip side, if it's that, we turn off our phones, we lock the doors when we're grooming pets because we don't want any interruptions while we take our time with your individual pet. So it's about setting those expectations, and remember that every single grooming business operates differently. So if a client has gone to another business, they may just assume that your business works the same way. And I guarantee you it probably doesn't. So you have to be really clear on what it is that they should expect during a business appointment with you, during an appointment with your business. And I think the best way to do that is to have a little video on your website of what the client should expect of an appointment. Basically, like, what your pet should expect at a day at, Happy Dog Salon. And you show a little video of, that they come in, the little time in the corner is like, oh, our appointment time is 9 a.m. I'm here at 9 a.m. and my groomer is ready to go, and it's showing you and happy and you're clean and professional. And then, the pet walks in and you do an assessment. You talk about that you do an assessment, first time appointments, plan for 10 minutes to fill out paperwork and talk about your pet's needs. And then it kind of shows little happy grooming things of, approximately how long it takes and what happens during the groom and what's included. And then when they come to pick up, that you go over them, whatever it is, a cool little video that's like 3 or 4 minutes, clients will gobble that up, and it will help you to show them exactly why they should come to your business and then what they should expect when they actually have an appointment. Okay. So the next question, so I'm going to move on to how to reduce stress during a cat's grooming appointment. Since this is a cat grooming page, we're going to talk about cat grooming right now. So let's talk about some ways that you can reduce the stress for both you and the cat during their grooming appointment. First of all, you should limit additional noises, smells, and sudden movements as much as possible. If you groom dogs as well, then you should try to have a cat-only time or cat-only days where you won't have barking dogs around the cats, because really they do so much better in a quiet, calm environment. I am a cat-only groomer. This is my cat-only grooming salon, and I regularly get cats from other dog groomers in my area because they just do so much better in my facility. I don't try to do appointments back to back if they've had a negative experience elsewhere. So I've literally had people who called me from a dog grooming salon and say, I'm on my way. I said, no, we're not. No. Even if I had an appointment, we wouldn't do that. Because I want to make sure I'm separating the negative experience that they had at this other grooming salon. So mine is just quieter, it's calmer, there's no barking dogs, nothing like that. And trust me, cats will do so much better. If you have a busy salon, try to have limited cat appointments and really funnel them into, like, say, one afternoon a month or one day a month, or maybe it's every Friday. make it so that you have these cat-only times, and the cats will do so much better. Next, you'll need to get as much information as you can about the cat before they book their grooming appointment. If I know that a cat is more likely to be shy or nervous, or they were from a rescue, or they're not used to being handled, I'll take extra steps during their appointment to make sure that they're more comfortable, and I give them opportunities to hide or cuddle up. If you want more information about that, we talk about it in our complete cat groomer training syllabus, a little sales pitch right here. We talk about temperament types and all the temperament types and what they like and what they don't like during the grooming appointment, and how you can adjust your appointments. So all of our information, just check out nationalcatgroomers.com, and it will give you everything you need to know. But you will need to adapt each appointment for that cat. Next is, I like to do new cats as the first thing. I do not like them sitting around and waiting. A lot of cats don't like that, especially if they're listening to new and possibly scary sounds before it's their turn. So I don't want to piss them off before I've ever gotten them out of the carrier. So I'll schedule new cats as the first ones of the day. They get done first, and I'll also put them on a quieter day so that I can just focus on their reactions without adding to how uncomfortable they are in a new environment. A big thing with me that I work on is what I consider a priority system with challenging cats. This means that I take care of immediate problems first, what is causing discomfort right now: matting, ingrown or sharp nails, gross rear ends, whatever it is, I want to take care of it as the first thing. Then my goal after that is to get them clean, dried, and combed out, because obviously that is part of relieving them from these problems. Then if the cat is still doing well, I'll start adding in services that will help prevent problems in the future. So this could be a de-shed, a comb cut, maybe taking the belly up higher for a belly shave, neatening up things. And finally, at the very bottom of my priority totem pole are any vanity requests that the owner has. So toe tufts, or, neatening up around the head, or, something like that. Those are all vanity, and I don't consider them to be high on my priority list. So I only add them in if the cat is still doing well from the appointment. Now, this doesn't mean that the cat can never get those services, but for the first appointment, I really work on a priority system, and then I know how they respond to different things, and I can make different recommendations once the client picks up. And sometimes I find that a cat who gets on an every, say, 6-week grooming schedule improves with each appointment. So then I can add additional services down the road. So I have a client, his name is Spartacus. I know for the people who came to the workshop that I did with Gracie Owen in the summer of 2019, I had this cat. Spartacus is one of my demonstration cats. And when he first came to me, he was highly aggressive. He was very, very matted. He hated everything about the grooming process. He was not a fun cat. He was very challenging. He's this big Maine Coon type of cat. And so we had to do a modified line cut, and we had to get him on a bath schedule because he was not going to tolerate any type of shaving or hair cutting in the future. Well, now that I do him, he gets comb cuts, he gets a belly shave or sani, he just lays there. He thinks the grooming process is fine now because it's not such a big deal. He's also not in pain anymore, so we're not adding to that when we're actually grooming. So I can make adjustments as I go, but it really is looking at that priority system is the first thing I do. And I always want to make sure that I talk about that to my clients, that I work on this priority system. This is my goal. I will focus on the problems that you're having first, and then we'll kind of build from there. Yes, because my overall thing is that I want to have a very positive long-term relationship with their cat, and that means working with them through the appointments. Okay, so those are my tips for reducing your cat's stress during a grooming appointment. I don't really go into a whole lot of supplements and sedatives and things like that because I work by myself and I prefer the cat to actually acclimate to the grooming process instead of having everything muffled. There will be a handful of cats that I will send to their vet for something like gabapentin, amitriptyline, something along those lines, where it's more of a kind of calm them down mentally. That's normally for adult cats who are very difficult to handle even at home. Like they're formerly an outdoor cat, or they're trying to maul me. things like that, it's not so good. So we'll do a couple appointments on gabapentin, and if I see some improvement, I might recommend that we try without to just see if we've gotten past a point that we need it. But it's a very small percentage of my clientele that's on gabapentin, and I don't like that to be something I go to right away. And obviously, I'm not administering anything because I'm a groomer. I'm not a vet. I don't work at a vet, and I will defer to their vet for any specific dosages or medications, anything like that, because I don't want the liability. So that's my little blurb on that. So the third question is, and I think this kind of goes along with that other question, is about reducing stress, is what if the cat hates the blow dryer? Now, I blow dry every cat. So I'm going to go over some tips on how you can improve your cat blow drying process. Because a clean, beautiful, de-shedded and fluffed out cat really needs a blow dryer. Yeah? It's gonna take you way longer if you are using a stand dryer or a human hair dryer than it is to just use a blow dryer, and I get my cats used to using a blow dryer. So if I can do it, I know you guys can do it. First, you're going to use some big fluffy towels to absorb as much heavy water as possible, so this will reduce how long you'll actually need to be in the blow dryer. Next, choose your blow dryer well. I use a variable speed knob on my canine mini fluffer, so it's dark, but it's back there. That way I can start at a lower pressure and then build up and increase with the cat's tolerance. So with my canine mini fluffer, I'm never really more than about a third of the way, because to me it gets them dry as fast as I'm comfortable with, and typically cats respond really well to it. I almost never turn it all the way up because I just don't need that. No nozzle. I do not use the condenser cones on my blow dryers like I would for a lot of dogs. I don't like a lot of nozzles on my dryer hose. I almost entirely use it without. That way the airflow is much bigger, the sound is much less, and the air is not so concentrated coming out. Now, I sometimes will use a very short water peeler type of nozzle, not the long ones because I just don't have enough room with them, but I use a short one, and I'll use that very limitedly. I'll use it for drying legs, so like that really kind of thick hair on the legs, but only if the cat is doing really well with it. If the cat is doing really well for the no nozzle, I might try with the water peeler nozzle and see how they do, but sometimes you can almost tell that they're ramping up a little bit because they don't like that additional condensed air, and so in that case I'll take the nozzle back off and I'll just use it with that. It just takes a little bit longer. Next is that you should try to muffle the sounds of the dryer with something like a happy hoodie or a towel wrap. So I've got my happy hoodie right here. So this is my table that I use after the bath. It's got all my towels on it and stuff. And so I've got the little happy hoodies are great for pretty much all cats. Even my tiny cats, I'll just roll it and use the little one, but my big cats will still get these. So I keep a whole thing of them right there. Those are fantastic because I want to take, if I'm using an e-collar and air muzzle during the bath process, I want to take it off so I can clean ears and eyes, if I took it off to clean the head, whatever it is. And then before I put it back on, I, will kind of towel dry the face, and then I'll put the happy hoodie on, and then I'll probably put either the e-collar or the air muzzle back on, but that way it's more muffled around their ears. And a lot of times I tend to use an e-collar or an air muzzle when I'm drying new cats, because I find that one, it also helps with muffling the sound, and this way the air isn't rushing right past their face, so they don't, if they're in the cat, if they're on the table and they turn and the air is right here, they're gonna get really freaked out. So they don't like the air right in their face. So even if I don't think that they're gonna try to bite me, I will still use an e-collar and air muzzle just to help introduce them to the drying process without me having to worry about it. So if they have an air muzzle on, I'm not worried about getting bit, and I can dry 99% of their body without them really worrying about it. And then the last little thing I'll do is, take it off, and I might be able to take the nozzle off and dry around the chin and a little bit on the head. But if they don't like that, then I might just, put them in my cage dryer, or I'll put a floor fan on when they're back in their carrier just to help dry around the face a little bit. And to be honest, if they go home with a little bit of a damp face, it's not the end of the world, versus damp something else, which could then clump and get matted. Whereas like right around the head, I'm not as concerned about. So the next thing I do is I introduce the sounds very slowly and from further away. So when I get them all set up, so they're being bathed, they're wrapped in a towel, they've got a happy hoodie on, they've got an e-collar air muzzle on, then I'll walk over to my dryer, my caddy shack, which is right here, and I'll turn them on, and then I'll walk away. And I'll hold them, and I'll hug them, and I'll rock them like little babies, and I can watch them to see their reaction to that loud sound, but I'm not right up next to it, I'm across the room. So that way they can start to hear those loud sounds, and they're starting to get acclimated, but they're not right up listening to it. So it's further away, I'm holding them, I'm comforting them, and I'm watching them for any changes in their breathing, if they're peeing or pooping, anything like that. I really don't have anybody who does that, knock on wood, when I'm walking that way. But I can feel if they're tensed up, I can feel if they're relaxing, I can feel if they're trying to wiggle because I've got them right here. And I'm not worried about them, escaping and running around my room and trying to attack me or anything like that. So I've got them and nice. And then we can make our way back over towards the caddy shack, and I can sit down, I can open the doors, and what I'll do is I'll start by unwrapping their back end, and I'll start drying like a big fat thigh, or I'll start by drying the tail. So that way they can feel the air on them without it being right up by their head or right by their legs or, anything like that. So a lot of times I'll start there and I'll start to work my way up, because if I have them on my lap, or if I'm starting on these back ends, those areas typically take the longest to dry. And if the cat is laying there, they're going to be all hidden from you. So if I start by drying the lower belly, the crooks of the back legs, the tail, things like that, then I know that those areas are going to be dry when I go to move to something else, versus having that be the last thing that I do, and the cat might have lost its patience for me by then. So we don't want that. Next is going to be limiting their escape routes. So I've already mentioned my Caddyshack vac, and to me that makes it a no-brainer because they have nowhere to go. There's no exit for them to run through unless they can get through the armholes. And if they have an e-collar air muzzle on, they can't fit through the armholes. And most of them can't even figure out that there are armholes. So I just open the doors, place them in, close the doors, and then I reach in so I can feel them and always have a hand on them when I'm turning the dryer on and when I'm starting to do stuff. And so to me, that makes it a no-brainer because there's nowhere for them to go. There's no exits. They can't run off the table. They can't jump down. They can't run at my face. But also the air and all the hair that is being blown off is all going to be collected in that big bag. So it's not all up in my face and I'm not breathing and picking it on my eyeballs. Gross. If you haven't gotten your Caddyshack yet, then you can put your drying table in a corner. So you see how mine, even now, mine is in a corner. That way you're limiting how they can get off the table. So they basically either go to the one side where your dryer nozzle is, or they go towards you. And at least that's kind of limiting how many places they can go. And they can also smoosh themselves in the corner, where their head's facing that way. And you can dry a lot on the body when their head is facing away from you. So limit escape routes. So the main thing is that you can also incorporate some lap drying or some towel drying or some cage dryer. You can incorporate some other things to help get them drier so that they're much calmer. We want them to be comfortable. The idea isn't to just blast them, and hope for the best. We want to introduce a higher airflow while limiting the noise, while we're using appropriate handling techniques. All this is crucial to keep the cat from getting frightened or agitated. So that wraps up today's episode of Relax, It's Just Cat Grooming. If you have questions or comments, please add them below. If you have a question you'd like me to address in a future episode, you can email me at lynn@nationalcatgroomers.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.